Hi everyone, welcome back to Born Poor Die Rich, and this is our part 2 of 3 of a series of what people don't understand about money. So once again, we're really glad to have Dr. Rowe with us. And for those of you who have missed the first part of the series, which we covered on Monday, it's really about income and expenses. And how we can triple our income or have 3 different sources of income, and at the same time you want to square root your expenses. But if you've missed it, do check out our Facebook page, Born Poor Die Rich, as well as our YouTube channel with the same title, Born Poor Die Rich. So today, we're going to go to the assets and liabilities part of this circle. And on Friday, if you want to make sure you don't miss Friday, because that's where we're going to be talking about cash flow forecasting. And this video is going to be a short video, 8 to 10 minutes at maximum, because that's the only amount of time we have Dr. Rowe for. So make sure you stay till the end, because he's going to give you a tip on, what are some things, how should we think, how do the rich and wealthy actually think about how they structure their assets and liabilities. So thanks for coming back again, Dr. Rowe.
Pleasure.
Great.
The diagram is always useful. I've kept it from the other day because it really summarizes where we're at. We're talking on this side today, aren't we, on assets and liabilities. So
absolutely.
Do you want to start with what an asset is, and I'll talk about a liability? Let's just jump straight in so they understand the definition that we're living by.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are actually keen to build more assets and want to find out more, you think this content is helpful for you, it would be great if you can type asset into the chat right now. Okay, so what exactly is an asset? An asset is, really defined as something that puts money into your pocket rather than something that takes money out of your pocket. And interestingly, over the years, what people might think are assets perhaps may not necessarily, you may not experience that as an asset, because the common one that people think is the home that they live in is an asset. But when you think about it, unless you find ways to monetize your home, like I know some people might stay in a room and then they rent out the other rooms in their house such that it generates a net positive cash flow, it actually, in that case, it's an asset. But in most cases where you're paying the mortgage month after month, just to be able to live in that property, it's not actually considered an asset, isn't it, Dr. Rowe?
Yeah, it's a great point you're raising, actually, Daniel, because if you're sitting on a home that's going to go up in value over, say, the next 15 years, then there is a long-term wealth building asset element to that, meaning that it's not really going to help you now, but in the future you will see that capital growth. But if you think of it as an asset right now, as Daniel's describing to you, which is putting the money in your pocket, then every single month, as you're saying there, if you're spending on a mortgage and it's costing you, it's actually coming out of your pocket. Let's face it, if it was an asset, you would need to go to work to pay the mortgage because you'd be sitting on it and be putting money in your pocket.
Yeah,
and I think a really tough one for people to swallow. Actually, they go, "Yeah, but my home's an asset." Well, okay, long term, it's a long-term capital growth asset, but right now, it's actually costing you to keep it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people get confused with what exactly is an asset when they think, if they're buying something with the hope of it going up. If it eventually does go up, and then so be it, and it's great. But I think buying something, the quote you might want to pen down or type out in the comments over here is, hope is not a strategy, right? Neither is hope an asset. So,
it's true, actually.
Yeah. And people with I've known of people that and some of my clients, they have purchased land banking over the years. Some of you who have as well, you probably will have similar experiences where you're basically buying a plot of land in an area that's maybe farmland or whatever, and you're hoping that this would be rezoned over time. 10, 15, 20 years later, we are still hoping. So I think that, to me, I wouldn't really classify that as an asset.
That's actually a very good point, because it's a speculative type of buying. So when I was over last teaching real estate over there, a lot of people said to me, "Oh, Dr. Rowe, what you're talking about is creating financial freedom. Like, we've bought this land and we're buying these off-plan developments, and so surely that fits into the same category." And I said, well, actually it doesn't, because what you're doing is you're taking a chunk of your capital, you're putting it into something that may go up in value, whereas I'm talking about buying something now that creates an ongoing value for you, an ongoing income, and you're actually going to add value to it. So, out of a big pot of money, and we can't give you advice on this, but you've got to think about what percentage of the money that you have is going to go into these speculative purchases For a lot of people, if that circle represents everything they've got, they'll use nearly all of it up. And they're hoping if anything goes wrong, that's lost money.
That's
So
true.
think carefully about buying something now that is an asset that brings money to you on a regular basis and has the
Mm.
potential to go up in the future. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I love the idea of that because I mean the whole series, and I love your little green circle around which talks about cash flow, and I think
And
especially if
we
you
and we
buy
talked
as
about the bath, didn't we? The bath is where
yes,
all your
and the
money's
bathtub as
disappearing
well.
out.
Mm.
So your home really is down here. The mortgage, the payments are coming out of here. So that doesn't
Yeah.
make it an asset.
So instead of creating more income sources or streams or taps of income through trading more of your time, so I mean traditionally people might be thinking maybe I get another job and another job, but we only have 24 hours a day and that amount of energy. What to me classifies as an asset is another tap that is now turning on and dripping water,
Correct.
and hopefully it starts to flow to fill the bathtub
Yeah.
quicker. Right, and I think the goal,
Yeah.
and for those of you who have not watched the video, on our YouTube channel, check out the video where we talk about the idea of financial freedom, where you want the bathtub to overflow.
Yeah. So I mean, classic examples of that can be creates a cash single month, and that business has an asset value, but it also has a revenue that's generating and it's bringing money into you. So that could be considered to be an asset. The other thing that, of course, you and I do is real estate as well.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe Dr.
So
Roy
there's
could
passive income generating real estate.
absolutely. So perhaps you could talk them through, what are typical liabilities that people get caught up with that then causes the water to flow out quickly.
This is the grey area, isn't it? Everybody likes to think they've got. So I mean, people buy cars and they go, "Yeah, look at my asset." That's not an asset. That's a liability. The minute you take a car out of a showroom, it depreciates significantly, actually, to the point where it might be only a half of its value within a year or two. If you buy gadgetry, telephones, computers, anything like that, TV, things that you buy that you physically own, they will have a value, but they depreciate. And if you've got them on finance, if you have to pay for them on a monthly basis, that's a liability.
Yeah.
And so you've got to think of it that anything you've bought that's either gone down in value or has gone down in value and it's also costing you per month is primarily a liability for you. If you
Absolutely. And
take out a loan, if you take out a loan, that's a liability. Any sort of loan is classified as a liability as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned a phone because a friend of mine was telling me that, hey, my credit card, she bought something and now she's, after I think 12 or 24 months, have finally finish. So she said, okay, maybe I can get a new phone and then get it on a 0% kind of interest thing, the kind of arrangement. But, in my mind, I was like, unless you already have the money to pay for it and you're doing it for, say, to maximize the credit card rewards or something, basically you're spending money that you don't have, and that's going to be a huge liability. And I mean, in times like this with COVID,
Right.
who knows what's going to happen in 12, 24 months, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, I've used credit cards in the past to renovate houses, still do.
Mm,
So I could sit there and buy something with my credit card. I mean, £12,000 on a credit card towards a renovation could buy me a car. That
mm,
car will depreciate, whereas the renovation will add value to the property.
yeah.
So if I'm sitting down with somebody, born poor, die rich, the whole philosophy is you're born with no assets or no liabilities. So by the end of your lifespan, have you got to a point where you have a greater number of assets than liabilities? Have you managed to reduce your liabilities down? And have you got your assets to a point where they're not just supporting your lifestyle, but create a legacy for your children? Or are
Mm,
you going to pass away with liabilities that may pass on to your children? And they're thinking, hold on a minute, I'm just starting. I don't want to take on your liabilities as well.
yeah.
So there's a lot of considerations here.
Yeah, and I think one thing I learned from you, way back now, some, almost 9 years ago, and it really changed my perspective about how I thought about assets and liabilities, is that assets then generate that cash flow, and the wealthy and the rich people, we did a session on being rich in mindset, and that mindset of the rich is really that they want to use their monies, they want to be good savers, good stewards of their money to then buy assets that generate cash flow for them. Whereas the poor, perhaps, they could be earning a huge salary, 15, 20, 30 grand a month, but they just blow it all on liabilities. And,
Exactly.
even though there's a huge inflow of, money through the salary or whatever into the bathtub every month, the expenses and liabilities just suck out all that water even faster.
Yeah, I mean, you could take somebody earning $1 million a year, but if they spend $1,001 a year versus somebody that makes 100,000 a year but only spends 50,000 a year, at the end of the year, you could tell. Yeah, okay, granted, the million a year person might have a bigger car, but actually they're worse off at the end of that year. And I think it's an important reflection. Are you chasing bling? Are you chasing something to prove something to other people? Or are you pursuing something with passion? And there's a difference between the two, whereby you're building a future for your family. And actually, it doesn't matter about other people's opinion of what you're spending. You're making your investments now rather than you're just buying things. And there is a difference purchasing investment versus buying a thing. So liabilities, if you look, I mean, if either myself or Daniel sat with you, and let's say Daniel was coaching you, he's just having a look at a balance sheet, he would simply put on one side all the assets that you own, anything you have that have value, and then we'd say, okay, of those, let's differentiate those that are genuine assets producing a cash flow, but then let's look at your liabilities. And the true net worth is when you take everything you own and you minus what you owe, and that gives you your net worth. But some people can be sat there with a net worth of $500,000, but still not be financially free because they're still working very, very hard. And there's an even more subtle distinction then.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm rich in salary, but I'm poor in time.
Yeah, and interestingly, I know we just have a couple of minutes left, but another thing that I learned from you is about this idea of people chasing approval or significance, and a lot of times this comes in the form of liabilities. And I think this quote that really resonated with me was, you spend so many hours in a job that you hate, and then you buy a car, or you buy a house or whatever to impress people that don't even care about you.
Exactly.
And it's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's quite a nice way to summarize. So for most people, let me just show you. So for most people, they're earning an income and they're spending they're spending out of that at the bar. They have assets that they think they're buying, and some of them may genuinely be assets. And they might own, for example, commodities that go up in value. They may not be producing a cash flow right now, but they're long-term wealth assets, and they have liabilities. Your objective, really, if you look at this simple diagram, is to increase the I and increase the A, reduce the E and reduce the L. That's our objective. And I think that's a good way to reflect on this live that we're doing today, is ask a simple question. And if those of you that are being coached by Daniel right now, for example, you might want to ask him that question, can we have a look at this? Because ideally, if this is increasing and this is reducing, then you're going to be a much wealthier person. This is the journey to richness that we talk about.
Absolutely. And I think some people mistake, Born Poor Die Rich for meaning that we must own, more and more assets, more and more income. And then that means, that mindless chase of wealth. But, we were just talking about that quote about, working perhaps in a job that you don't enjoy, you're not passionate about. It could even be a simple thing where you relook at your expenses and your liabilities, like Dr. Rowe was just sharing. And that's, thanks for the amazing tip and summary, by the way. If you just relook at your expenses and your liabilities and reduce your lifestyle, it could allow you to, for example, take a career choice that you're really passionate about, or start a business, or be able to help in a volunteer. And I was really inspired by one of my friends who is now volunteered. She and her husband volunteered at a time to actually help in a swab facility for COVID tests. And I was like, wow, these people, really just live their lives for others. And to me, that is an example of a really wealthy life. Right? It's not just about, in fact, it's not even about living in the biggest houses or driving the best cars.
Yeah, exactly. And the nice thing is that once you buy that time back, by the time freedom that you can create, it gives you more choices. And ironically, in that space, you can create more wealth.
Yes.
Unfortunately, for most people, they're in the bath, they're just about surviving, but it's draining off and they're trying to fill it up, and there's no time to do anything else. So this is also about buying back time as well. It's a big part of that richness that we talk about.
Yes, I love that idea of time, and we definitely want to invite you back on another one of these sessions to talk about how we can be rich in our time, so that we can spend our time with, doing what we love with the people we love as well. And
absolutely.
So thanks so much for your time.
Going back to my kind of lovely drawing. You're probably all laughing at my drawing here, but so what we want to talk about on Friday is this outer edge, which is really the cash flow and the cash flow forecasting in your life. So just be mindful that's what we're going to be covering on Friday.
Absolutely. So if you want to learn how to better manage your cash flow, forecast it, and be able to, predict what are some, anticipate and plan better for your future, for yourself, your family. Remember to join us at 10 p.m. Singapore time on Friday. Go to our Facebook, our website, our YouTube. It's all called Born Poor Die Rich. So follow us, give us your comments, questions, hit the like button and subscribe with us. And I think it really helps us to do this work as well. So take care, everyone. Stay safe. And until Friday, 10 p.m., we'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.